Hello everybody, it's Mike here at Game from Scratch. Welcome back to our ongoing Godot 3 tutorial series. We're coming to the end of the 2D section of this series. There's only one or two more parts in 2D, and then we'll move on to 3D. And today we're going to be looking at tiles and tile maps. Basically, tiles are little reusable chunks that you can use like Lego bricks to quickly build 2D game levels. Very common technique in 2D games. And before we continue too much further, here is that standard reminder. I'm also developing a book to go along with this series and making it available in preview chapter form for Patreon backers. So if you're interested in getting an early look at that book, it covers the exact same material we do in these videos, and it's available to all tiers of Patreon backers. And this is what we're going to be following step by step. So without further ado, let's jump right into the Godot game engine. So here you can see typical Godot. I'll switch here into 2D mode. Now I haven't done and created our default scene because that's sort of part of the process that's involved here. So we're going to start a scene from scratch. And that's because the first thing we need to do is generate our tile set. Now, in order to do that, we're going to need some tiles to work with. Tiles start life simply as 2D graphics. It's generally you create a texture atlas or a sprite sheet that contains all of the various different tiles that you're going to use to draw your screen. In our case, we're going to go ahead and actually get them from the internet. If you head on over to you can use whichever tiles you want, of course, but I am going to be using this fellow. So anzamuz.itch.io. He's made a bunch of tiles available. In this particular case, I believe I used the tiny RPG assets. Just go on in here. Again, grab whatever ones you particularly want, but these are the ones I want. You can get them for free, or you can donate to him. He does great work, so if you want to check his stuff out, go ahead and do so. But this is one source anyways for tiles. Now do be keeping in mind, if you create your own different set, be sure to note the size of each individual tile. That's the only thing that's really going to change from the tutorials if you don't follow along directly. Let's open up that folder. You'll see I've actually already got it and downloaded it right here. And what we want to do is go ahead and find one of these settings. I believe they're under environment, and I want TileSet right here. We'll just drag that guy over into our project in Godot. So it will import appropriately right there. So if we were to look at this guy quickly, you can see that is what it is. It's a whole bunch of different tiles. Now what we need to do is actually carve it up into tiles. This is a little bit non-intuitive, but it's not too bad. First thing what we need to do is go ahead and create our scene hierarchy. And in that we have a sprite. So with our sprite created, we now want to go ahead and set our tile set to the texture value of that sprite. Now, obviously, we don't want it to take up the entire world like we've got right here. Instead, what we want to do is go down here to texture region, like so. And now what we're going to do is start defining the texture regions for this sprite. So with the sprite selected, what you want to do is go down here, set its region, and we're going to set its rectangle to, in our case, each one of these sprites is 16 pixels by 16 pixels. And if your sheet is different, you're obviously going to have to set a slightly different value for that guy. Okay, so now with region set to the right size, 16 by 16, we can now come on down here in the texture region area, and we can manually start defining our region. So we can go ahead here and we can do, pixel snap, grid snap. All right, let's turn grid snap on. And we're gonna set stepping to 16 by 16 to match our size, like so. And that will automatically snap to the corners of our grid like that. And what we want to do is start cutting these tiles up into tiles. I feel like something is wrong here. Oh, okay, I just didn't hit enter yet. So now you see each grid piece is 16 by 16. And now what we want to do is start defining that region for this guy. So all you do is come down here, pick the two corners like that, and oops, come on. Drag it out like that, and it should be set. 1 second here. Don't know why that didn't update. Oh, enabled. You also want to enable your region like so. And then here you will see we just defined a single tile. At any particular time, we can grab that tile and move it within our world. And we can just keep doing so. So now what we can do is just go ahead and duplicate this guy. So we created tile 2. And you can name these however you want. So if we wanted to go with a good naming convention, we call this tile 1. Or we could go by the name that we're actually defining with our tile. And then now you're just going to go ahead and set the region for our second selected tile. And same deal. So just basically draw it out in a grid. And we can go ahead and duplicate that guy. We could also do Control D to save ourselves some time. Just move that guy over a little bit and define the next region. And Control D will duplicate that guy and define the next region. Move him over a bit. And Control D and move him over a bit. Define the next region. Oops, just one region though, like that. and so on and so forth. You basically continue this process until you have all of your tiles defined. Now, just go a couple more. We'll move them down into the next row. So tile 6, we'll move this guy down here. And we will define this guy. Okay, and Control D. Move that guy over a bit. Let's define that one. A couple more. So that is how easy it is to actually create your tiles. Control D, make one more, define the region, Control D, one more, and define the region. Now, I'm not going to get into this in this particular case, but if you also want to set up physics for your individual tiles, you could do that right here. So let's say for this tile right here, that was tile 8. Say we wanted to do a static collider on that. Well, we could go ahead and define that right now. And we just, with the tile selected, add a child node to it. That is going to be a static body 2D, like so. And then what we want to do is add a collision shape to it. So add a new node, and this is a collision shape or collision polygon 2D. Yeah, we'll do polygon this time. And then we can edit the polygon as we define. So basically, let's go ahead and create We should be in edit mode now. And we've gone up over here. We can start selecting our, we did this in the physics section. So I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail here, but we're going to create a new polygon from scratch. And we're just going to define where the collision boundaries of this particular static mesh would be. I believe it is enter space to finish space. Enter. All right, let's click up there. So there you see we have our collision mesh defined for this guy. And you could do that. You could add either a collision polygon or a collision shape, set up these things, and then your tiles will participate in any physics simulations you have. The only thing you need to do at this point later on is turn on is kinematic down the road. I will show you that when we get to it. But for now, I'm just going to leave things really straightforward, and we're just going to go ahead and delete those nodes. We'll keep the physics out of it for now, but that is all that is involved in adding physics to your actual tile map shapes. And now what you probably want to do is go ahead and save your initial scene. So we'll go here, save, and we'll save scene as, and I'm going to actually call this guy something very specific, tile map, or tile set source scene. And that's because we're actually using this scene to generate a tile map. So now let's do that. I only saved it that way in case we wanted to come back and edit it and then create a new tile map out of it instead of having to redo everything from scratch. You're probably going to want to save a scene to work from. But then once you're ready, just go ahead, convert to, and convert it to a tile set. So now I'm going to call this my tile set. And it could basically be any of the common type you want. T-res works for me, so we'll go ahead and save that out. And now it is available for use. So now how do we go ahead and use a tile set? Well, it's pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and create a new scene. Like so, and we'll immediately save it. We'll call this save scene as, oh, need to add my root node. All right, new root node is in, and we'll go ahead and we'll save our scene as tile scene demo. So we got our root level here. We are ready to go. Let me just make sure we're in 2D mode, and then we'll set it as the default scene. All right, so let's go, tile scene demo. Okay, now it is time to go ahead and create a tile map. Not the most exciting game yet, but let's move. Now, a tile map is basically a layer of tiles, and you can have multiple tile maps that can be drawn on top of each other, etc. But all we need to do is, with our root node select, we'll go ahead, come up here and make a tile map like that. And you will see it is drawn. There's its boundaries. Its mode, you can set it to square, or you can do isometric, or you can set it to whatever custom resolution you want. And then what you will do to define how you want, if you want it custom or isometric, you'll define your custom transform here so that you can show how your tiles all relate to each other. We're going to stick with a straight orthogonal projection here, so just straight tiles as we were used in our raw source. So with this guy selected, so we're in square mode, we want to bring our tile set in, not the PNG, but the one we just generated. So the T-res file we just created, and we drop that on TileSet. Now you will see immediately after we've done that, we now have, when the tile map is selected, a new editor over here, so we can bring in and paint with new tiles. Now, next thing we're going to need to do, though, before we move on, is set that our tile size matches. So we want to go 16 by 16, like this, and that has set our tile size. So now you'll see each individual grid in the map. Let me just get zoomed in so we're my map here is gigantic, so it makes our tiles look tiny. But now we can basically start painting with the tiles. So here are your various different options. And you got transpose, you can mirror the tile, you can mirror the tile the other direction, and we can start basically just drawing. So if we have a tile at the corner here, we use that piece, then here's a little string of, oops, why did you not select? Let's undo that, I can't. All right, well, that's a good time to show you. You can use the right arrow to, the right mouse button to erase your tiles. Zoom in a bit so you can see what we're doing. All right, so we're tile 2 selected. Now I can do a top layer like that. And let's find the bend in the other direction. We can bend that guy down like that. And now let's start doing some vertical tiles like that. We go this way like that. And we can do a bend. Did I do a bottom bend? No, I did not do a bottom bend. Although we could probably get the top bend and flip it. I think if I do that one, flipped. All right, so there's where your flipping and mirroring would come in. Now I can do a double mirror in theory and get this guy to bend back that way. So those are your various different tile editing tools. You can zoom in and out the shape and size of your tiles as they're available right here between the different things in your editor. And that's really all that's involved with it. Pretty straightforward for the most part. Now, I mentioned earlier on that you can define static bodies and set up the collision meshes within your individual tiles. And then when you paint with them, they can be part of your physics simulation. Well, if you want to go ahead and do that, what you have to do is come down here to the collision section and say use kinematic on. And then you can set the collision layers that your entire tile map exists on. Now, keep in mind that each setting is individual to each tile map. So if you need to have multiple different settings, or if you want to just have one layer of collision details, you'll have to create a separate tile map for that. So what's common to do is to create physics tiles, maybe non-visible tiles that you use to paint over and define physics layers within your different tile map. And as I mentioned, you can actually have multiple different tile maps, and their layering is determined by the Z index. So things that are drawn on top of each other will have a lower Z index to be at the bottom or a higher Z index to be on the top. But you can have as many maps as you want. So that's tiles in a nutshell. Nothing too complex there. It's a pretty straightforward process, but there is the two-stepper. Now, one thing to be aware of, if you are interested in an easier process of generating tiles, so if you've got really straightforward tiles, you've just got an image with a bunch of tiles, sort of like we do in this particular case, you can actually use a tool called Texture Packer, and you can do this for free. Download Texture Packer and say generate Godot tile map, and it'll generate this TRES file for you. So if you want to streamline the process of creating the tile maps, there is a program called Texture Mapper that you can check out that can do that for you, and the free version works perfectly fine. So that's one thing to be aware of. Now let's actually look a little bit at the code involved when working with tile maps. And it's not really that hard to work with the code either. So let's go ahead and create one. I think I created it on this guy in the example. So we'll go ahead and create a new script. Sure, tilemap.grip. And we're going to do all of this in the process. So let's go right here. And boom. All right, that's pretty zoomed. Hopefully you can see that just fine in this. Now, first let's show you how you can actually get a tile in the scene. So first thing you're going to need to do is get your mouse position or your touch position when you click. This can be done by calling the get viewport. Now remember, at the top of every scene, there's automatically a de facto viewport made for you. I'm going to cover viewports in a bit more detail very soon. But just know for now, you can get the mouse cursor that way. So now we know where the mouse was clicked. Now we can go ahead and check what the location is where that mouse was clicked. So equals, and then what I want to do is go world to map. That is a function of our tile map, and it maps world coordinates to map coordinates. And we just pass in our mouse position like this, and this will tell us what is at that location. So now what we can do is get that actual cell at that location. So we're going to go var cell equals and get cell, another helper function as part of the tile map, and this will get you the cell at the map position that you pass in. So this is location x, comma, okay, lock.x, lock.y, like this. And first we will check if that cell is not equal to -1. In other words, if there's nothing there, like so. Let's scroll that down, enter. Then what we want to do, here, let me just give me a little bit more room on this. All right, so if there is no tile there, if there is a tile there, we're going to go ahead and just print out what the tile is. So say TileSet.get, wait a minute, tile_set dot tile get name. Now I've obviously made some kind of an error here because it is upset with me. So let me just stop and see what I did wrong. Line 17 expected comma. Print. One sec. Not entirely certain what I did there. That should be fine. I don't know why this isn't. This line of code should be just fine, other than it's not doing anything. So, why are you giving me issues? Okay, it's just the editor going stupid. The second I played it, the error went away. So I don't know what just went on there. I'm sorry. It's just a bug or a glitch we ran into with the code completion handler telling me that I had an error that I didn't. So all we do there basically is print the cell at our location. So otherwise what we're going to do here is we'll actually set a cell in our map. So I'll show you how to dynamically create a cell. So if there is no cell at the area we just clicked, we'll go ahead and create one. And we'll just create the lock.x, lock.y, and then we'll use cell number or tile number 1 from our, remember when we were over here, this. So we'll basically give it the first tile or the first index tile. So when we click, we will create a tile in that particular location. I think that's it. I think that should be the end for my script. Now let's see what happens when I go ahead and run this. So here is our code. There is our lovely tile map. Oh, I don't have this on mouse down. So it's doing it every time unless there's a tile there. All right, so you see as I'm hovering over things, it's showing you the name of the tile underneath. Otherwise, it is literally painting a tile as I go. I meant to do that on mouse down, but this is just as fun. All right, so this particularly works. So you can see how you can get a tile easily enough in your tile map using simply the code right here. So you map your mouse back to the viewport position. So you've got your mouse position. You find out what that mouse position is within the maps position. And then you find out what the actual cell at that particular location is. If it is not anything, it will be defined as -1. Otherwise, we can print out what its name is. Otherwise, we will go ahead and actually draw a tile where it is. Now, what I actually meant to do was add just a small bit of code up here of if input.isMouse button pressed button left. That way this will only actually fire when we click a mouse button, as opposed to every time we move the mouse. But as you can see, the same end result will be there. It's just we'll have to click to draw our tile. But just the same, so you see how you can dynamically populate a tile map, and you can also fetch a tile within said map. So pretty cool stuff. Pretty straightforward for the most part dealing with tile maps, but it's still quite powerful system for the most part. And I think that's where I'm going to end this today. Yep. I also showed how to animate a tile in the book. Truth of the matter is, though, that's more a show of the animation player than it is of the tile maps. So I'll probably cover that when we get to the animation player in a little bit. So I'm just going to gloss over that for now. But if you read the book and you're looking at the video going, hey, why didn't you cover that? Well, that's why. So if you're interested in learning more about how to actually animate individual tiles, unfortunately, out of the box, Godot doesn't really have a solution there. So what you have to do is kind of roll your own animation system for working with tiles. And like I said, in the book, I showed how to do that, but I'll show you how to use the animation system shortly. So I don't want to duplicate the effort. So I'm going to end it there. That's all we're going to cover for today. Pretty cool stuff you can do. Now, once again, do remember, I'll show you this quick duplication. You can quite easily, so let's go here to move mode. So you can see we now have 2 tile maps. Oh, I need to get out of tile edit mode. So here, how do I stop painting a tile map? Oh, that's interesting. I don't know how to move you. 1 second. This might be a quick limitation of the Godot engine, or this might be a problem on my behalf, but I don't know how to actually go ahead and translate this guy using, so whenever you've selected it, it's going to open up in the tile editor. So if I want to actually transform it, I actually have to come back over here and transform it this way. So what I did is I duplicated our tile map to show you that you can have multiples. Then I just wanted to go ahead and move it a little bit, but I can't get this guy active. So if you actually know how to work around this, I would be interested to know it. Otherwise, you may actually have to manually transform your tile map layer using the editor like I just did here. Now, one last thing to show you, actually, I did miss something in my coverage. You also have the option, and this is pretty useful, especially when you're first starting out. You can do a flood fill. So let's grab this guy so that we could have a base tile. So you can come up here to the tile editor. You can do bucket fill right here or using the G key. So we could just go boom and then flat, just fill our entire tile map with that particular tile set. But again, it's interesting. I don't actually know how to transform and not be in the editing mode. If you happen to know that, do let me know in the comments down below. It's the first time I've encountered that. For as far as I saw, though, if you've got multiple tile edits like this, you're going to have to actually manually position them once you've started the editor up. But there might be a way around this, and if you do know it, I will be interested in knowing it down below. But that is it. That is all you're going to cover for today. That is tile map creations using Godot. So first off, you basically create your tile set, and then you paint your map using said tile set. It looks more complicated than it is, in all honesty. So tile maps in Godot. I hope you found that useful. If you did, please do, of course, click like, subscribe, all that stuff on that bell icon, because apparently that's how you really subscribe on YouTube these days. And let me know what you thought in the comments down below. All right. Bye, all.